Welcome to our explainer. So, on paper, it looked like a pretty standard 2-0 cup victory for Parma. But behind that simple scoreline, there's this really interesting paradox, a win that honestly felt a lot more like a warning. So what really happened in this match?
Look, a 2-0 win seems perfect, right? Parma moves on, job done. But if you scratch just below the surface, the story gets way more complicated. The big question everyone's asking is pretty simple. If they won the game, why is there this feeling of alarm? What's going on?
Okay, so let's start with the result itself. A win is a win, you can't argue with that, it's in the books. But as we're about to see, this was a classic case of winning the battle, but maybe, just maybe, getting a huge warning about the war to come.
And there it is, the final score, Parma 2, Pescara 0. You get a clean sheet, 2 goals, and a ticket to the next round of the Cup. For any team, this is exactly the result you're looking for. But this is pretty much where the simple part of our story ends.
This quote right here, it just perfectly captures the feeling after the match. Even with the win, the performance left behind several perplexities. You know, this wasn't a moment for celebration. It was more like a collective sigh of relief.
At the end of the day, moving on in the tournament is what matters most. But that victory just papered over some really serious cracks. Parma looked like they were struggling to create anything meaningful against the Pescara team that was, let's be honest, pretty modest. It was a win, sure, but it was nowhere near a convincing one.
So why was the performance so worrying? To really get a handle on those perplexities, we need to look at the game itself. A match that had almost zero rhythm. Let's break down the anatomy of this stalemate.
You can see the shared mediocrity right here on the screen. On one side, you've got Parma, whose attack was just slow, it lacked any kind of creativity, and was totally unable to break into the final third. And then on the other side, a Pescara team weakened by absences putting in what was actually called an indecent performance. They just kept failing to build any play from the back. It was a stalemate, really, born from both teams being pretty weak.
Indigestible. I mean, that's a strong word, but wow does it fit. After a little bit of action in the first 10 minutes, the game just died. The rhythm was bland, the pace slowed to a crawl, and it felt like both teams were completely incapable of producing a single moment of real quality. It was, frankly, a really tough watch.
But then, in a game that was basically grinding to a halt, something shifted. Out of this tactical fog, 2 players just decided to take over the game. And this is where a super dull match was saved by a couple moments of pure genius.
Yeah, in a match that was just completely defined by confusion and errors, the deadlock was broken by the only genuine bit of class we saw all day. This wasn't about some amazing team strategy or tactical masterpiece. No, this was all about the brilliant connection between 2 players, Valeri and Pellegrino.
And the way it all happened was pretty remarkable. So first, at 47 minutes, Valeri whips in this perfect corner, and Pellegrino meets it with a thunderous header. Goal. Then, get this. Just 18 minutes later, they do it again. This time, Valeri crosses from the wing, and Pellegrino delivers another flawless header. Game over. Just 2 moments of brilliance in a whole sea of mediocrity.
So how good were those headers? Well, even the opposing coach, Vincenzo Vivarini, couldn't help but be impressed, and his summary was just perfect. Pellegrino has a bazooka in his head. I mean, what a fantastic quote. It totally captures just how unstoppable the striker was in those 2 key moments.
So, a flash of individual magic sends Parma through. But what does a win like this actually mean for their big ambitions? We've got to look at the bigger picture now and ask the tough question. Was this a step forward, or was this a serious warning sign?
So when you put it all together, the verdict is pretty clear. The win is what counts, for now. But the performance itself, oh man, it raises some serious red flags. The confused tactics, the heavy reliance on just 1 or 2 players. Look, this level of play might be enough to get past a weakened Pescara, but it is going to get them absolutely nowhere against their next opponent, Juventus. So here's the bottom line. This deceptive victory, it really needs to serve as a critical wake-up call. It highlights an urgent, and I mean urgent, need for Parma to get better, to move beyond just hoping for moments of individual brilliance and actually start building a cohesive, creative team strategy. The clock is definitely ticking.
And all of that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. We saw 2 moments of genius decide a game. But can a team truly build a championship-winning identity on the back of individual talent alone, or is a flawed system always, eventually, destined to fail? It's something to think about.